All right, good morning, interwebs. I'm Adam Smith with Just the Tips Coaching, and welcome to a new episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. This would actually be episode 40 this year, so you guys can tell we're getting close to the end of the year. Erica, Ramona, Tom, Mark, boy, lots of guests early this morning. Jared, Kelly, Steph, good morning. So our guest this week is Rohan Herbert, and Ro has yet to log on to our Zoom meeting, so hopefully he'll do that soon, and if not, we're going to have a very impromptu show this morning. So for those of you that don't know the background behind Just the Tips and Just the Tips Coaching, that happens to be the title of my book on lead generation and sales hacks, and there are a few life hacks sprinkled in there as well. After, I don't know, it's getting on a couple of decades or so in the mortgage business, I had always been coaching real estate agents on lead generation. That blossomed into coaching loan originators, car salespeople, insurance agents, financial planners, basically people who have a direct-to-consumer relationship and want to be better at generating leads and client retention and those kinds of things. So really the brunt of it, the crux of it, is lead generation. So let's focus on that. And for those of you watching, if you guys want to ask any questions or talk about anything lead generation specific, I see a few of you watching are already coaching clients at Just the Tips Coaching. A lot of you have seen me speak at different events, those kinds of things. So I'm going to just open the floodgates and let you guys make comments, and I will try to answer your questions. We can certainly support bringing people into the live video stream if you guys want to go that way while we're waiting on our guest, assuming we have a guest this morning. We'll see how that goes. Fingers crossed that he'll join us here at some point. So yeah, if you guys want to ask any questions, Kelly, if Ro joins us, then we'll certainly get that. There's Ro. Ro, I see you're watching the video. Log into the Zoom meeting so that we can have our episode. And we'll certainly give you a minute and wait on you there. That should be both in your email and on your calendar for the way that Jen set that up. If not, I can certainly get it to check your Facebook messages, because I sent you one this morning and can certainly get you the link for it if you haven't found it already. So yeah, we're actually going to get a guest this morning, it looks like, so you guys hang in there for just a couple of minutes, and as we're waiting, if you guys have questions, then we will certainly answer them. But yeah, that's really the gist of what goes on at Just the Tips here, is that we want to help you guys generate leads, retain clients, stay top of mind, those sorts of things. So yeah, it's definitely an important piece of the puzzle. Yeah, Ro is not on here with us yet, but hopefully that won't be too long. Let's see here. I'm going to get him the link while you guys are watching me tinker with the computer, just to be on the safe side. And hopefully that'll give him the opportunity to join in here. Good morning, Brenda, Teresa, Dan, Corey. Hope you guys are doing well this morning. For those of you that aren't aware, we're based in Denver. And Denver, really, with such bipolar weather, we set a record high on Saturday, something well into the 70s. And the wind picked up last night, actually blew my grill halfway across the deck, and a storm came in, and now it's something like 10 or 15 degrees outside, and there's snow on the ground. So it's definitely a slower and more casual day than what we would normally have going into this. So yeah, come on, Ro. Let's get into the Zoom meeting here so that our audience can hear what you have to say about lead gen and client retention and all these kinds of things that we want to talk to you about. All right, so in the interim, let's just throw out a few ideas. Looks like Ro may be joining us. Somebody has logged into our meeting, although no audio or video yet. While we're waiting on Ro to figure that stuff out, let's see if we can't pluck an excerpt out of my book here and use that as a subject for some fodder. Ooh, there's a good one. This is page 317. Know where your business comes from. Okay, and the quip from the book says, is your business repeat clients? Is it client referrals? There's Ro. Is it coming from referral partners? How you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Good. But the bottom line is to make sure you know where your clientele comes from, because those are the arenas that you can focus on. All right, so we're a few minutes in, but Ro was able to join us. He's got his head cut off a little bit, but there we go. Excellent. So, Ro, I'm going to jump right into it because our audience is definitely anxious to meet you and see you and hear what you're up to and what you're about. So give us a little bit of background. How long have you been in real estate? How did you start? What made you think that this crazy industry was a good idea? Give us the MO, man.
Well, I've been in business approximately May 2003 is when I got started, and that might be familiar to you.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that era. I am definitely familiar with that era in real estate.
Yeah, so that's kind of when I got started. I got started in New York City, so I've been doing real estate ever since.
And you got started doing real estate in New York City. That's really a fascinating market. All kinds of different manner of real estate products and activity there. How long did you do this in New York before you came to Denver?
Well, up until 2010, okay?
Okay.
So technically I practiced for about 7 years in New York City before I came out here. And so it's been fun.
Was that a difficult transition, from New York to Denver?
Not necessarily. I actually, believe it or not, prefer not so much the commissions, but I prefer the.
That's funny.
I prefer the ease of the business in Colorado, because literally deals close in roughly 30 days. In my instance, 21 days, and in New York, the average deal is 3 months, start to finish. So that's a different ballgame.
Yeah, that is a very different animal. But it does really play well to what we believe about lead generation when we talk about the fact that the work we're doing today is laying groundwork for closings and transactions we're doing in 60, 90, 120, 180 days. So that actually probably plays fairly well for the success that you've had, especially with that kind of a transition. When you came to Denver, was this a completely new market to you? Did you know anybody here, that kind of thing?
Well, I did know folks here. My wife is from Colorado originally. That's why I'm out here, pretty much. But the difference, I didn't know anybody in terms of the business, so I had to hit the ground running. And I got started with, when I got out here, it was the middle of, the downturn, so to speak. So I put my license with a brokerage out here that had the largest HUD contract. So I started doing a ton of HUD deals, and with Debbie Green, and out of realtors, one of the real estate companies. She's very, she got the biggest contract. So what I did, in essence, she had tons of inventory. So being a cold caller, I pretty much hit the ground running with the existing inventory she had to build up my own new listings, so to speak.
Ah, that's really smart. And I do remember that era. And for those of you watching, your business, whether it's real estate or mortgages or insurance or financial planning, is going to be cyclical like that. There's no question. So Ro has seen a really interesting period in the real estate market. And obviously this was a big impact coast to coast when we had a lot of short sales and REO and HUD-owned properties, those kinds of things. So having that skill set in his pocket is certainly paying dividends for him because those were difficult transactions. And there may very well come a day where those transactions are prevalent again, that we have another downturn in the real estate market. It's going to be some time, and certainly unique in Denver because it's a very popular market. There's a housing shortage, although that's true right now in most of the urban corridors across the country. But having those skills will certainly pay dividends. Ro, tell us, from having built that business, those transactions, that database of clients in that era, how has that transitioned over what's now a dozen years or so into the kind of business that you're seeing today and what you're doing for lead generation? I assume it's a lot of repeat clients, move-up clients, those kinds of things.
Well, good point. The business definitely transitioned. My approach to real estate is kind of holistic. And what I mean by that is when I meet a client, whether it's the first-time home buyer or someone trading down to a smaller property, I take a holistic approach, meaning years out. So let's say I meet a first-time buyer and want to buy a piece of property. I'll walk them through the process. But initially, when I start talking to them, I definitely let them know, hey, I'm not a one-and-done broker. I'm going to show you how to become an investor if that's the goal. So I would sell that person the property, and a few years later, I'll call them back and say, hey, remember me? Bro, by the way, you have a ton of equity now. We can use some of that equity to buy either a bigger property or a rental. And I can walk you through the whole process and be your advisor, so to speak. And that's worked out well for me. One gentleman in particular, when I met him, he was a first-time home buyer. I called him up a few years after that, and I said, it's time to cash out. Now he owns a bigger property, more square feet, and his mortgage payment is the same or less. Because I showed him how to use the proceeds from the sale to transition into a replacement property. And now the guy's a happy camper, he has a bigger house, the mortgage is less, and his wife thinks he's a genius. So it's a win-win.
That is win-win. I may need you just to help me figure out how to get my wife to think I'm a genius. So that's perfect stuff. So a lot of that activity for you is coming through picking up the phone and calling people.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because by design, I'm a cold caller, right? A lot of brokers dislike cold calling.
Oh, most, I think. I think most salespeople dislike cold calling.
Well, they're losing a ton of money. Quick backstory on me. When I first got licensed in 2003, within 10 years of getting my real estate license in New York, I got my first listing. And it came from cold calling. So to me, it was the only way to do business initially. Just get on the phone until you get a deal, right? And what was interesting, my first client, not even 2 weeks in the business, was a real estate attorney who gave me a listing. Obviously, when he invited me to his office, downtown Brooklyn, he knew I was new. But he didn't care because, my approach was unique, according to him. And within 2 weeks, we got under contract, so he was happy.
That's perfect.
But we were under contract, so good going. And a little further on that, my first $1 million listing in my career came from cold calling. Okay? So I would pound the phones, and after maybe half an hour into making my calls one day, a young lady picked up. She said to me, 30 minutes into the conversation, let's say, and you got to talk to folks, right? And she said to me, well, I'm not ready to sell yet, but my sister is, who happens to be an optometrist. She's an eye doctor. And her building happened to be right across the street from where the Brooklyn Nets Stadium is now. And I went, I met her, we picked it up. I did an open house that weekend after picking up the property. And a developer came by, and we were asking $1.05 million. And a developer came by and offered us $1 million cash, closing a month, which is unheard of in New York, right? Closing a month, $1 million cash. So to me, cold calling was just the thing to do, right? But a lot of brokers stray from it. But I think, and the trick to cold calling is to listen more than you talk. If you're a talker on the phone and all you do is talk, you're talking yourself out of deals. So the secret is get on the phone and let the other guy, the client, tell you how to close them pretty much.
This is brilliant stuff. So on a side note, I'm very familiar with the neighborhood. Our oldest graduated from Brooklyn College this past spring, and the ceremony was at that arena. So I stood out on that corner for a full day one day earlier this year. But this phone stuff, this cold calling stuff, and that's exactly how I started in the mortgage business. I was basically given the software that's the gold standard for loan origination, and a desk and a phone and a cold call list and a pad on the bottom and go get 'em, Tiger kind of thing. And here we are a couple of decades later with a fairly successful mortgage practice and a subsequent successful coaching practice. So, yeah, for those of you watching, heed Ro's words. Cold calling, working the phones, knowing to listen rather than to talk. That's actually an entire page in my book. All it says is listen. That's an incredible sales technique. In fact, one of my former coaches always referred to it as kind of a hot potato theory. And if you're talking, that means you have the hot potato and you don't want it. So if someone asks you a question, give a pointed answer, get the potato back in their hands, and let them continue to talk. Because, listening and reading, obviously, in the social media world, etc., is a far, far greater skill than the talking, because people do love to talk. They will tell you their pain points, what they need to do, what problems you can solve, and this is how we close deals. So for those of you watching, Ro really nailed it on the head there. This is great. All right, so Ro, tell us, you're not cold calling people today. I mean, tell us what your activity looks like today, man.
When I do it, it's more like a training, right? When I'm training brokers, I get on the phone, I'll make the first 50 calls, if they're nervous, just to show them how easy it is, and just to show them some techniques. But today, you're right, I'm not doing so much cold calling anymore. More repeat business, folks calling me out who I helped out, and a lot of, believe it or not, sellers that are transitioning, downsizing, with all the folks that are retiring and that's going to getting ready to retire in the next 3 to 5 years, there's a ton of business out there, right? And I look at the analogy of the bear that goes up the creek looking for salmon. There's tons of salmon if you know where to look. If you have no clue, then you'll be searching for deals, right? So to me, if you want a quick deal, not only do you look at, let's say, for sale by owner, you look at someone that potentially have lived in their property 30 plus years. You do your research 30 plus years. You send them a letter or two, they'll call you up, or you reach out to them, and you help them transition, from their 4,000 square foot property into a 1,200 square foot home. And those deals could happen every day of the week. And today, currently, getting a lot of online leads, so to speak, because that's the trend. They said the trend is your friend. But
I love that. The trend is your friend. That's a good one.
The direction of helping folks transition. And by the way, you get 2 or 3 deals out of that. The person that's selling is also buying. And if you double end the deal on the sale, you know how that goes. So it's a great way to do your deals. So I have a lot of online leads. People reach out to me today for me to help them with their online, the companies to help them with their online transaction in terms of people looking to buy and sell. So there's no brain in that. They just call you up. This guy wants to buy and sell. Help them transition.
Yeah, that's
the trend.
That's brilliant. I love it. All right. Well, on that subject, what do you think's going to trend going down the road? What does 2020 look like? What does 2021 look like? What do you see changing? What do you think your practice looks like? How does it change?
Well, that's a good question. Interest rates are really low, which is good for you.
Very good for us, no question.
But the sellers that are transitioning, it's a great way for them to buy a replacement property and still have it be affordable. Okay, so that's going to work all day. We're still in a seller's market, which is good. I don't see us transitioning in a buyer's market at least 6 months to a year. But you saw what happened recently on Wall Street, okay, with the downturn. So with that happening, it tells me that there could be a correction coming. And to me, a correction is not bad, right? It helps get rid of the bad blood. Meaning, people that need to cash out, they stop being on the fence and they decide to move on to cash out, which is always smart. And so where I see the market headed, it's going to be a healthy market. It might be a slowdown, but nothing to worry about. It's not going to be 08, 07 because we don't have the fraudulent stuff going on anymore. Not to the extent that we did, so to speak. But the business is always going to be here. To me, there are two assets any investor should buy, and real estate to me is the biggest asset, right? Because technically, once you get rid of the note over 30 years, or whatever your time frame is, 15 years, you can retire comfortably, right? And so my approach is always to tell folks, hey, how many rentals would you need to retire? Just to throw it out there. And I can help clients get from here to there in terms of what they need to do. And they can use some of the equity in their own property to transition to become an investor. But not everyone is interested in that. So you always have to take the traditional approach with real estate. But there are two assets that I would tell an investor to look into: real estate and maybe a life insurance policy. Because depending on who sold it to you, you can not manipulate, but you can pull some cash out of that and get creative also. So, and I did that in the past. I sold life insurance and annuities also. So those are the two assets that I would suggest: real estate and life insurance. But let me go back to what we're talking about here, which is real estate. And I think the market's going to be great because, they had the yield curve that just occurred on Wall Street. That's an indication of, within 12 months or so, we should have what they call a recession. But it's going to be a mild one. And to me, it's going to be a good one. And I always tell potential people that are on the fence, when the downturn happens, you buy more real estate. You don't shy away, right? Because you can always cash out in the future. So to me, buy more real estate is always my mantra, no matter what market we're in.
And it's a good one. And there are a number of colloquialisms that have existed for hundreds of years circumnavigating that subject, like, one, buy real estate and wait. Don't wait and buy real estate. And of course, the thing about real estate here, guys, is we're not making any more of it. There's only so much land on Earth. And I shouldn't say that. I remember being in a building out at Chambers on the West Side Highway when we were in New York. And it was built on the landfill out in the river. So I guess we could make a little more land. But the general consensus, guys, is that we're not making any more real estate. So he's absolutely right. But Ro, I want to get back to this subject. What do you think the impact of the impending recession is on real estate?
What do I think the impact is?
Yeah. Do we actually see? Do we see the increase in value slow down? And I know that there are very different analogies and anomalies to being in the urban corridor, the city center versus middle America, out in rural areas, those kinds of things. But do you see the incredible increases in value slowing? Do we eventually get back to even a balanced market where everybody's got a 6-month inventory? Do we even ever get to where it's a buyer's market again?
Oh, so I see what you're saying. No, good point. Corrections are always good because anything that goes up too quickly, the downturns are usually ugly. So I don't mind corrections in between. It's going to be a seller's market for a while because there's not enough inventory. And I think on the MLS, the inventory is skewed because a ton of the properties that you're seeing is new construction. It's not existing inventory or, properties 10, 20 years old, which is very important. To me, that's the real inventory in real estate. We don't have enough of that, okay? So I think it's going to be balanced more than being a buyer's market. we do have an influx of people relocating to Colorado, and that does help, okay? But there's not enough inventory. Too many people sitting on the fence waiting for the property value to continue to increase, right? Once that influx hits the market, which will happen, I think we're going to have a balanced market, which is always good. And if you don't mind, just to tap into you brought up the land situation. I've been doing a decent amount of land deals recently. And what's interesting to me is most of the buyers are not even local Colorado investors. They're moving here to pick up the land. So I'm doing water rights, mineral rights, and that's very interesting for a New York guy. It's a little different.
That is different. Yeah, not a lot of that going on in Brooklyn, eh?
Not at all. Not at all. But so going back to your main question, I think a correction is good, right? And a balanced market is preferred, right? It's preferably what we want to be in, as opposed to an ultra seller's market or a nasty buyer's market where you have 10 homes per block. I don't see that happening, meaning actives, right? I don't see that happening, but I do see a correction. And like I said, when the correction does happen, and I've been watching this streak of almost 2 decades, buy more real estate. That's the secret. Because when it corrects and you cash out, you look like a genius.
That's the ticket. All right, so going into the next couple of years, what do you see for your lead gen, for your client retention? I'm not going to make any doubts whatsoever that you're going to continue to work the phone, that the internet's obviously going to be there for a long time to come. Is there anything new, anything you've got cooking in the back of your head that our audience would love to know about you, your business, your lead gen?
Well, if you look at what's happening with companies like Zillow, and believe it or not, Amazon, they're getting into the real estate business with the whole iBuyer scenario. What they're doing is sending out letters to potential homeowners that might not be able to sell their property on the open market, meaning they might need a roof, they might need a furnace. So they're pretty much taking advantage of the public. I think, believe it or not, the traditional broker is going to be needed more than ever in the future. Because here's what we bring to the table. We bring our expertise, we bring our knowledge, and we bring our fairness. Because we live in the communities that we work usually. These iBuyer programs and these online buyers that are starting to influx, the real estate world, there's no relationship. There's no personal attachment to the client. So I think we're going to be needed even more in the future, the traditional brokerage firm. Sitting with the clients, telling them what the property values are, and helping them cash out to maximize the return on the investment. As opposed to some guy sending them a letter from Zillow in Texas somewhere, who's literally taking advantage of them, not giving them market value or even close to it. So I think, believe it or not, we're going to be needed even more in the future. So one way, if you're a new broker getting started in the business, or even a veteran broker, go back to the basics, meaning talk to the potential people that live on the block, work the community, grab the phone, make an hour a day your time frame to just get on the phone and meet, not just, I like strangers, by the way. A lot of people you hear, when they talk about training, they want to talk to their uncle, their dad, people they've done deals with. I like talking to brand new people and just showing them what we have to offer and listening to their problems, right? A wise guy told me years ago, hey, Rohan, if you want to make money in real estate, go get some problems. Meaning, you got to solve problems. If you don't have problems, we don't eat. So we've got to find more problems and solve those problems, and then the snowball effect happens. So I think we're going to be needed even more in the future as a traditional brokerage firm than we ever did in the past, because we understand the contracts, we're fair, and we're talking to the people in real time. So I see nothing happening that could slow down what the traditional brokerage has done in the past. Even if you hear it online and you hear it on the media that we're going out of business, traditional brokerages are going out of business, I think that's incorrect.
I would agree. And I did a live video, not in the production sense of this. I don't know, it's been a few weeks. I actually asked Zillow to make me an offer on my home, not that I'm going to sell it and move anywhere. And we had heard a lot of rumors. We'd seen a lot of data about an iBuyer versus traditional brokerage type of channels. And I think one of the important pieces, well, secondary to what Ro is telling you guys here, is that using the iBuyer, in this case it was Zillow, would have cost me somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 more than if I just hired Ro to sell my home. So I think that that's also something for us to really, really consider, is that in addition to the level of service, the level of communication, the level of knowledge, the level of expertise, the level of cost is also very, very skewed. So take all of that into consideration. Ro, I know we're running a little bit long here. Part of it because we were slow in getting started, and some of it because the content that you're spilling out there is really bomb.com. I want everybody to hear it. Tell us a little bit about your actual business structure. Do you run it by yourself? Do you have some help? Do you have other brokers? Tell us what that looks like.
Well, I do have brokers that I work with. I call them partners, right? And the reason why I do that, no man is an island. And to me, you get more bang for your buck through the team structure. For a long time, I was this guy that was the individual. I did my deals. I closed a decent amount of deals over the years. But I noticed that you get further along with the team. So, currently I'm now the vice president over at Wyckoff Realtors Professionals. And my day-to-day is career development, getting the brokers going. Not that they need my help over there, because obviously this is one of the top brokerages in the state of Colorado, the Wyckoff Realtors Professionals firm. But my gig over there is to bring on new talent, okay? One of the things that we're doing that's separate from most brokerages out there, every broker that signs on with us, you get your own website, okay? We do provide leads, okay? So it's A to Z type of structure. So we actually are going to ramp up our hiring of brokers in the next 12 months. And we should have some fun over there. And we're just going to compete with the Zillows of the world. What I mean by that is, instead of a guy like you losing thousands of dollars, thinking you're getting a better deal because of the so-called quick deal, if you go to traditional brokerage, which is what we represent, who we are, most likely the sellers are going to, make top dollar in terms of the return of their investment. So my goal is to ramp up the deals in the office, and by the way, I'm doing a lot of off-market stuff as well. Sellers that are cashing out. It's not on the MLS. And similar to what the Zillow guys are doing, except with me, the sellers make more money. Okay, we're fair, as opposed to. So it's a holistic approach, like I said. Not only am I the broker that says I want the brokers that work with me to make more money, I also go in the direction of showing them how to be an investor as well. So it's not just a guy that's looking off the street that wants to buy real estate. I also help out brokers to become investors as well. So there's a ton of stuff happening behind the scenes in terms of properties that don't even hit the MLS and sellers that are cashing out. And I'm tapping into, just going on off of what you said, I'm tapping into what I used to do in the past. In New York, I represented a lot of real estate law firms that were family planning law firms, meaning estate planning. And you would have mom and pop would leave X amount of properties to a family member, let's say, and the kids, and they're interested in one or two of the units, and the rest of the rentals they're not interested in. So there's a ton of ways that one can make money still in the business as a broker / investor. And I think every broker should consider being an investor, because why not? A lot of times you're solving a problem, right? Like I said, this kid that inherits 10 properties, whoever he is, might not be interested in all 10 of them. He might be interested in 2 of them, and the other 8 he's looking to liquidate, but has no clue what the next step is. So a broker like myself will step in walk them through it, make sure they get a decent return on their money, and help them to cash out. So there are different ways to skin the cat, so to speak, when it comes to real estate. When I sit down and I hire brokers, my first conversation with them is, what's your goal as a broker, right? Do you want to be an investor one day? Do you just want to do traditional real estate? You want to help people buy homes and sell homes? Me personally, I like sellers, because I just feel like it's inventory. You don't list, you don't last. That's the mantra. But tons of brokers I'm running into, they like buyers, okay? So it depends on what the broker's goals are. That's how I direct their sales, so to speak, on what they should do next. So it really depends on what they say to me.
I kind of figured that was the case, and that a lot of those conversations start off in a similar nature as to what you would have with a consumer. But I asked the question because I wanted to make sure that our audience, mostly people that have a focus on lead gen of some kind or another, but certainly a lot of real estate agents, knew that was something that was an opportunity for them, and not just for the consumer. But we do get a lot of consumer viewership as well. So for those of you watching that fit into those categories, Ro's a great resource. I would certainly reach out to him. And Ro, real quick before we wrap up here, give us your contact information. What's the best way to reach you? Consumers, potential brokers, how should they reach out to you? What's the best way?
Traditionally the phone, you can call me on my cell phone, or you can call me at the office. I'm now currently off of I-25 and Arapahoe in Greenwood Village, and we're Wyckoff Realtors Professionals. Wyckoff is a great brand, okay? They've been around since the 60s back east, okay? And the gentleman I'm with now, Tim Davis, he owned a bunch of Metro Brokers offices in the past. And he decided to sign up with Wyckoff Realtors, and it's been excellent ever since. So I'm there now, and my cell phone is a great way to reach out. I'm always on the phone. My number is 720-477-8165. That's 720-477-8165. That's my direct. Or you can email me, rohanherbert9@gmail.com. That's rohanherbert9@gmail.com. I love the hiring brokers. We're looking to ramp up the amount of brokers we have in the office. Or if you're a client potentially looking to buy or sell, I'm here to help.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And for those of you watching, I'm sorry we ran a little long. If you want, if you're not getting the information that we just posted about how to reach out to Ro, certainly feel free to use our text code scrolling at the bottom of your screen. That also holds true if you want to see previous episodes, if you want to catch our weekly video blog, if you want to be a guest on the show, if you want a copy of the book, whatever the case may be, use that text code scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Again, Ro, thank you for being with us. Don't go anywhere. I am going to run our extra, and I'll chat with you briefly.
Thank you for the invite.
You bet.